Afternoon, Jay. How you doing today?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good now. We were speaking a little earlier before we went live, and
hmm
you put me in my place privately, and I
hmm
think that it's time for you to do this publicly
Okay. You want a lashing,
because
do you?
lash into me because you asked me how my day was going, and I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah. So it's funny how it plays into the principle, but from what I understand, that you spent the majority of your day on an island hauling tiles up a hill. Is that correct?
yeah. In my mind, I was helping the guys out, and
Right.
you know what I mean, trying to do my
Talking to the
part.
builder, making sure everything got going right. Yeah. Most
Yeah, I don't feel
people,
good about it. Not
right,
anymore.
right. Most people would actually feel really satisfied with that. They would feel like they got a job done that could otherwise not gone as well, right?
It's true. It's true. Like I felt like I was contributing, getting the guys respect, showing them what I could do, that I still have it in me. And
Okay.
I don't feel so good about it
Right.
right
Well,
now.
it comes down to this, right? So as you mature and as you understand, where the value comes from in your business, or where the most results come from in your business, you're going to figure out that roughly 80% of our time is spent doing something that creates 20% of the result. All right. So and it's called the 80-20 principle. So ideally, we want to spend the least amount of effort creating the biggest amount of result, right?
Right.
So when we really break this down and we start to understand that this principle is real. So for example, we used yours as a good example, that the 20% was selling the job. That's like the big result, right? I mean, the
Right.
profit was actually made when you sold the job. Now, the effort to produce the job, well, see, that's where you're losing money, because if it takes you more or exceedingly more effort to actually produce that job of your own time, your own resource, your own brain power, and you volunteer that, well, then we start to go in reverse. So now we're spending the majority of our time, roughly 80% of it, getting what? So
Yeah.
we want to do the tasks that bring the biggest results, selling the job, take the least amount of time, selling the job. All right. And ultimately that will allow us to do more in that zone. Right. So if you spent 80% of your time focusing on just those high value tasks, like those ones that are $1,000, $2,000 an hour tasks,
Yeah.
all right. Your business is going to do exceedingly well. And the other thing you're going to find is a lot more time. I mean, it takes practice, it takes discipline, it takes consciousness to actually do this in principle. All right. Because most of us, we're firefighters. We're micromanaging firefighters, is what I'll call
Always.
it. Right.
Always. Yep.
Where really it's a control mechanism that forced you to go up there and stand over your guys, and maybe not have a plan in place before that, so it's all on you. And I think a lot of guys feel that, like, that's a high value, important task, and it may very well be for a lot of businesses, but it's a symptom of a bigger problem. Right.
Yep.
So if you're not able to execute on jobs, if you don't have the systems, or you're not thinking at least that direction of, hey, you know what, I'm not satisfied today because my time wasn't well spent. Where most
Mhm.
guys would be like, I spent my day well. I got this job started. They would feel great about that. And that's cool. But just know that mentality is going to keep you at a level. All right. So
Yeah.
having the business move beyond you, or earn you profit, well, beyond yourself and your time, is going to require you to think differently. Right. And that's
Well,
not
I'll tell
easy.
you. Yeah. I mean, I could have paid somebody 20, 25 bucks an hour
Mhm.
to do what I did today.
Mhm.
And shit, if I keep this up, I'm going to ruin my back anyways and end up
Right.
doing what I should be doing
Right.
by default.
So again, it's all in principle, right? But I mean, easier said than done.
Of
I would
course.
say, and again, even myself, I keep myself accountable to decision trees and stuff along those lines, because I fight with the same thing. I want to jump in and put out fires. It's in me, it's my instinct, right?
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
see something that's not done that should be done, then I want to do it and just bulldoze through everything clean, right? I think as contractors, that is our instinct off the bat. We get work and then we want to get it done, right? Like, we want to do a great
Yeah.
job. Our focus is in getting the job done, and that's okay to a certain extent. But where that stops serving you, all right, is when you want to move to managing a business. Okay. Because getting the job done, yes, it's an important part. And yes, you need to, have systems and people in place to do that. But
That's how
that
we
should be
got
where you
here.
spend the least amount of your time. Okay. Because you've
Mhm.
already, like, think about it. Like, is there anybody out there that's possibly laying in tiles for multi-million dollars a year?
Haven't seen the tile guy driving a Ferrari yet.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe in the future, but like at the
Maybe.
moment right now,
Yeah,
there's a ceiling to how much a installer or a supervisor can get paid. Okay.
for sure.
And there's a limit on it. Like at the end of the day, you're certainly your business could not afford to pay you more than $200,000 to $300,000 a year to do that task, could
Mhm.
they?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
then you've
I'll
hit your
agree with
ceiling.
that. Yeah.
And that's a big risk. That's provided XYZ goes right. Like you're really you've got yourself into a position. Now, is there a limit on how many jobs you could sell?
Not at
Technically?
all.
No.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Is there a limit on how many leads you could generate? How many conversations you could have? Like, there's a lot. There is a limit, of course, but like, there's a lot less limit there than in other places, right?
Well, there's a lot more I could produce there, that's for sure, and with
Right.
a hell of a lot less effort.
And that's what we're talking about today. Is again, if you find yourself that you're constantly being pushed and your days are full, all right, and you're always busy, you're going here, and I talk to guys all day long the same thing. I can't get them to sit down and focus on something that's going to bring them millions of dollars because they're too busy focusing on things that are going to bring them hundreds of dollars,
He
right?
who works the hardest wins, right? I mean, that's how
Right.
we got here. The problem is
T-
letting go.
Totally. So that's bad programming, though. So the
Mhm.
programming that most contractors have in their head, all right, is if I work hard, I'm going to get somewhere. We've talked about this, right? And working hard is attributed to success. Okay, and unfortunately, in business, it's not true. Working hard is not as wise as working smart. And what's even wiser than that is taking these systems, these processes, and putting them together in a way that requires the least of you. All right. So we should always be looking to make ourselves the least important, most important person in our life, in our business. If you can get to that stage where you're not important, you win. That's it, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, that's where again, that's kind of what I've been very focused on. Is I didn't, I had to go through the stages of first understanding where my time was going. That's step one, right? Being accountable for that, like feeling the pain of like your situation. So I explained to you how
absolutely.
I would think differently about it. Like you would be happy about getting the job done, and that rightfully so. Before I shit on your cornflakes, and I
Publicly.
was like, but wait a second, like let's really think about this. Like in my world, in my eyes, I would be losing a lot of money and time, and other things would start falling that were higher value to that, right? So the simple way to kind of do this is, I use a matrix, where we put the emphasis on our time. All right. You can only get to this level by being consciously aware. Okay. And I would say the majority of people I talk to are unconscious of how they use their time. They just know they're
Mhm.
really busy. And they fill their day and say yes to things they shouldn't say yes to. We've talked a lot about this,
Yeah, yeah,
right? They
absolutely.
have, on top of that, they beat themselves up because they have this perfectionism, complex where, they feel like everything should be perfect or go their way. And I mean, that's just not reality, right? So where they find themselves most often is doing the things that nobody else wants to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
they can't hold their team accountable. They're just running around cleaning up messes, and they're doing it at a laborer's wage. So
yep.
if we were to
And then,
really add up all the hours, all the time, all the risk, you may as well go get a job in most cases because you
oh, you're
get
right
paid
there.
better
Yeah,
and treated better. And it's what I really like people to understand is that is a decision. That's not a that no one put you there. You put yourself there. And it's simply coming down to this, right? Our thoughts are not us, right? Our reactions and we are in control of the actions that we take, and we're in control of decisions that we make. We're
that's
not
right.
so much in control of the thoughts because those are just things that happen. What we have to do is focus on the actions being in line with the goal. All right. If the action was in line with the goal of, hey, I want to grow my business, you wouldn't make that decision. Right.
I
If the
agree. Yeah,
action, if the action was in line with, hey, I want to protect my time, then what it forces us to do is come up with alternatives to that. And if most people would slow down enough to really focus in on this and, I'm going to say, undo some of the programming that exists in their head. Like, oh, I can't do that. I don't have anybody that'll do that. I don't have the right guys. I don't like you sell yourself short all the time because
Yeah.
the reality is that you haven't really tried to solve the problem, right? The problem continues on because you let it, right?
That's a scarcity mindset. Of course, we've talked about that
And
before, right?
again, this is what this whole conversation's about, is really getting yourself in a position first to take action. Okay? If our day is full of distractions and full of different things pulling us different ways, there's no quality action taking place. All right?
Right.
We're getting stuff done, but we're just surviving. We're just getting it done.
And this is myself included, people thinking, I don't have the time. I don't have the time for this. How do you have the time for that? There's not enough time in a day. We hear this every single day. Meanwhile, for 4 hours, I'm
Mhm.
hauling tile up
Right.
a mountain
It's a
on an
it's a
island.
beautiful example, and again, I'm
Yeah.
glad you shared that with me at that particular time because it's sometimes hard to explain to people, and it's even harder to get them to break the habit, right? So again, our instinct is to put out fires. Our instinct is to micromanage. This is our baby. Like we go back to being on the tools every time, and it haunts you.
Well, there was a day when it was all on you, right? When you
Totally.
started this, it was
Totally.
all on you. It's letting go.
Right. And I believe for some people it even creates a bit of trauma. And when it does,
Hmm.
like because it's very few people I find understand responsibility until they truly own a business. Right. It forces you to get into some uncomfortable places, doesn't it?
Yeah, no
Right.
kidding.
So we're always kind of on the edge of, giving up, and, then our ego kicks in and there's no giving up and we're going to just keep, fighting and
Yeah, we kind of
it
live there,
really
don't we? On a day to day, right?
but we're our own worst enemy because unfortunately, again, it's programming, right? That programming doesn't serve us when we want to grow a business. If you're in a position to grow and you want to have a business that is successful, then you need to focus and only focus on the things that matter, right? Every time we're stepping outside of those things that don't matter, all right, we're programming ourselves again to give ourselves excuses, right? So the time excuse is old. So old. It's so it's so tiring, and
Yeah.
at the same time I have so much respect for the people that are stuck in it because I remember what it's like, and it's hard to break it. All right, it's hard to move outside of it without the support, without like somebody, not standing over you telling you what to do, but providing you with enough resources that you can remind yourself, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like having the love for your suppressor, right?
Right. Right.
It's almost
And
what it feels
and
like.
most of us, most contractors, most business owners, to be honest with you, because I mean, I see the same thing in business owners that are just starting their business in different fields, right? Outside of contracting. They tend to do the same thing. They're very hands-on. They want to get their hands dirty. They want to get involved with everything. And they end up spending a lot of energy getting very little done. And that is a fact, right? That's the reality. And when we really stand back from our businesses, if you're struggling at a million, it's your habits. It's you, right? There's no reason your business can't get to 2 or 3 or 5. Like the problem will be you, right? You're your own worst enemy at a certain stage, and it's only when you start to realize these small subtle changes, these easy things that are right in front of us, to buy back our time, to get time to focus on what actually matters. And then again, we've talked so much over the last few weeks, and I'm going
Mm.
to continue to make it a theme, is really aligning ourselves, values, and goals, right? Like, what's the outcome? You've got to be able to understand that motivation itself fades very quickly. When you were motivated to start your business, hey, that gave way till, the first kind of uphill battles that you went through
Yeah,
for the
that was
years.
the
And then
first
you wish
shiny
you could go
object.
back, right?
For sure. For sure. It was
How
nice. It
many
was
nights
like
have you spent just, rolling around in bed in agony thinking about all the things that have gone wrong? Like again, this is the torture of the business owner, uh, and I can't tell you how many nights I still have them. I still have to, like, I know better and I still go through them. But at a certain point, something gives way, and it's and really, it's where growth happens, right? The hack here, the cheat, is that there is no hack or cheat to it. It comes down to pure and utter behavior, things you can control that are within your power. That's again what you choose to put your time into, right?
Yeah, I wish it was easy to accept, but I mean,
Totally.
I know you're right, and at the end of the day, like, I have to look and turn inwards and really analyze my time, which is like, I don't know, how do I say this? Threatening? It's, it just seems like a hard thing to do, but
It's not.
it shouldn't, right?
It's
Yeah,
not.
like, it's
See, that's the thing. That's the irony behind it all. It's actually far harder to do what you're doing than it is to make the change. The
well,
problem that keeps people back is the unknown.
we've gotten so efficient on the tools, over the years. We've gotten
Sure.
so efficient on the job site. We can run our job site lean, like,
Mhm,
and implement processes, make it work,
mhm.
and manage our time there. But in our daily lives and in our businesses, it seems
But
like,
again, here is 100% a way that you can do it. It's just not the way that we're accustomed to doing it, right? So
yeah,
again,
let's talk solutions for sure.
yeah. So I mean, I use a priority matrix. It's very simple. Again, we've got lots of training on it, so anybody that's interested, and it goes hand in hand with my goals, right? What am I trying to get accomplished? What am I not like? What am I saying yes to, and what am I saying no to? What am I putting on my radar? And the way that it really works, I mean, again, it's quite simple actually. It's pretty simple, and I feel like whenever I explain it to somebody, it like they're like, "There's no way that can work." I'm just like, "Yeah, that's what I do every morning." So we all have these ideas, thoughts, all these things that we think are going to contribute to our business, right?
Always,
So
and they're
then we
always fantastic ideas.
Yeah, then we set out and we just try to do them all at once. And we don't do
Yeah,
anything really well. And then when it
yeah.
fails, we kind of have a grudge against it. So like again, I can share mine with you for example, right? So this morning's brain dump well, I'm not going to read them all, but like SOPs for adding docs to a CRM, pro hire process, foreman training for JCR. Like all of those things, although important, not urgent. All right? So I'm going to schedule them for later. I'm going to delegate those out. All right? Now
Yeah.
those are in line with my business goals. Okay. Now, now on top of that, I had workshop funnel, nurture emails, job ads for I won't say their name, marketing ads for another company. Those were both important and urgent. All right, so I did them. They're done, off my plate.
Hmm.
Okay. They also bring the most value to my goal of the business, right? So Contractor AI.
Right.
Now, for whatever reason, I had a customer suggest I should write a book on one of our calls. And I was like, that's a great idea. I put it in there. That's neither important or urgent. So I'm just going to delete that. That's not going on I'm not doing that. Okay. And then,
Right.
in terms of, creating a card SOP, that's, that's something I can delegate. All right. So delegation is another thing. So when you take some of these things that are not to say that they're not like that's important, but I should be delegating that, right?
Right.
It's
It doesn't
not,
have to be you.
that's
Right.
right. It doesn't have to be me. And then what I'm tying a lot of these things, and I got other things like I went, um, I started in 10,000 step walks in the morning now, just to kind of, I'm trying something different.
Yeah.
Usually I'd work out, but I'm doing just this walk, and I have some breathing exercises that I'm doing just to like get myself into a
Neat.
different frame of thought. That to me was not important, um, because it didn't affect the other things, but it was urgent for me. All right. So
Okay.
in that case, I had it scheduled. It was on my schedule. So when I woke up, everything's time blocked. I had time like aside for that, and it's in a different area of my life. So again, it comes down to like that's my health, that's my fitness. It's also spiritual to me in some respects. So that's where I get
Right.
energy from, right?
Right.
So that is something that I'm going to prioritize. So now, instead of having 30 things to do and driving around just thinking of all the solutions that I'm never going to do to get to that thing, all right, I'm only focusing on four things. They're done. All right. The things that I could schedule or delegate, they're delegated. All right. So I got 30 things done where most people would have got one or two.
I'm glad you shared that, dude, because that is like, I think that should resonate with a lot of people because
Mhm.
a lot of those tasks, those are all thoughts that go through all of our heads,
Right.
right? And then they overwhelm us, and then we
And
get
that's
nothing done at the
once
end.
you hit that's exactly it. Once you hit overwhelm, the only thing you can do is what you've already know. So that's get back on the tools, jump in like everything you've already confident and comfortable doing. There's lots of things in here that I'm not. They're brand new, right? So why can I do that and other people struggle? It's because I have a system that puts it in an appropriate place. I get myself prepared for it. I don't slap a new, high mental energy task into the middle of my day when I have no chance of being able to actually focus on it. I schedule those earlier before the phones ring, before and if it's worth it for me, all right, if it makes sense for me, all right, it's not something I can delegate because I always look at this like, hey, a good example, setting up Google ads. I taught myself how to set up a Google ad. Okay.
Mhm.
But I don't set them up. Do you know why? For our
Somebody
clients or
else
for
can do
anyone.
it.
It's an important task, all right, but it's something that can be delegated.
Mhm.
So why would I invest my time, all right, doing something that can be delegated? Why not get somebody, outsource to somebody to just set the ads up, and I come in and I literally just write the ad copy. That's it. All right. Now,
Let me ask you something.
sure.
How do you let go of, I mean, you delegate this work out, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of us do it because we know that we're going to do it right. We're going to do it our way, blah, blah, blah. Same old stuff. But when things actually get completed and they're not to your standards or they're not to,
Mhm.
like, how do you let go?
Yeah. So first of all, most of us don't know how to delegate. Okay, so that's a
Right.
big problem. Delegation to me is not. You have to know what, like, first of all, you have to have the steps. So like I told you, I taught myself how to do them. I did it myself. Okay, I
Mhm.
got the steps. I knew how to do it. I was fluent with how to do it, just like building a house, right? Some of us have got those steps down. Then I documented it and I got showed somebody else how to do it, and then I watched them do it. They showed me how to do it. All right.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
then and yeah, because I'm showing them, they're watching, I'm monitoring it, and then we come back and we talk about improving, right? So I'll let them sit with that for 2 weeks, and then I'll come back to them. I'm like, now that you've got that, let's talk about how we can improve it, and that becomes the standard. All right. So the standard is we do it like this. Now, if a new thing comes along, I'm expecting that person to add that additional thing. So, for example, call tracking is one of the, and I'm just using Google Ads as the example. All right.
Mhm.
um and it's so funny because the person that I have it delegated to, both me and him realized that one of our systems would allow for call tracking now, and that's been a big feature we've been trying to add for our clients. And almost at the same meeting, it was brought up. I was like, hey, did you know that the system now can have call tracking? He's like, oh yeah, I've already wrote an SOP. That's what I'm talking
That's
about.
awesome. That's
That's
awesome.
that's
Yes.
see how my behavior now shapes everyone around me. All right. So again, if my process, and Contractor I, we're very like data driven, process driven,
Of course.
SOPs. We have again, and we have to be, right, especially in this line of things. Um, but if I wasn't, and I just started off everything with just throwing out tasks or trying to find people that can take the whole thing on for an unreasonable, you know, um, an unreasonable rate. So like hiring an ad agency, right?
Right, right.
See, I'm not willing to do the work. All right. I'm just trying to move the whole thing rather than deal with the problem. And the problem needed to be solved. So my opinion is you can only delegate after you understand the problem itself. All right. If you're outsourcing, that's not delegating to me. That's outsourcing. That's a whole
Okay.
thing. Okay.
Yeah.
You can outsource. Let's say that you delegate parts of it to your team, and your team handles it well, but there's someone that can do it better. Cool.
Yeah.
But if you don't understand the process, you don't understand how it works or why you're doing it and what benefits it have, what the standard of quality is, all of those things, they blind you, right? So
Mhm.
again, either you could be getting a great job but no way to measure, you could be getting a shit
That's
job,
right.
no way to measure. So the same rules apply in our business, right? So when we're thinking about delegation, it's about breaking it down into simple steps. We overcomplicate things. We expect people to have the same knowledge that we have, and the reality is if they did, they wouldn't be probably working for you,
That's true.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how do we take very average people and produce the same or if not better results of us doing it ourselves without being there? right? You
Yeah.
have a
Unless you
system or a
simplify.
process, right?
Right. Right.
So now you're going to break that down into digestible pieces, all right? You're going to, set the expectations. You're going to measure it. You're going to know when it's not working, when it is working, and you're going to make consistent improvements to it, right? So again, if I've done this over and over again, it's never what you think it is. It's not going to be a person, in my humble opinion. Okay, from my experience, I've had here's two scenarios. One, you hire like an A player that's like you, all right, if
Mhm.
not better, that comes in and takes it off your plate.
Yeah.
All right, high risk, low chance of
High
scaling long
risk.
term,
Right.
right? And in fact, it makes you weaker because you're avoiding the essential problem, right? And you're expecting somebody else to take the whole thing on, right? Versus hiring a bunch of B people, right? That are more complacent and more like, we can expect a little bit less production, but we can hold them accountable to the standard, right? We can
Right.
guide them, and if your system's set up correctly, they'll know when they screwed up, they'll know when they're doing great, and it doesn't involve you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So we have to think about all these things while we're going through the experience, and I think that people try to bite off way more than they can chew, right? Rather than focusing on the things that they have power over, right? So a good example is the guy that's doing $200,000 a year and wants to do 4 million next year. Good luck. I, I like honestly, I mean, good luck. Um, you will find out very quickly, right? Going too fast is a recipe for disaster. Going too slow is a recipe for disaster, right? So where do we find ourselves? This is where
Right.
that 80-20 rule comes into play. Really what people should be thinking about is how can I master something and then get it delegated as quickly as possible, right?
Right. You did make it very, very simple.
Hmm.
And I love that. And it's almost like should it be that simple?
It's again, if you're yeah, it is that
But
simple,
usually the right answer is
right?
something simple, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. It's not supposed to take a lot of energy, right? So again, you gotta remember that like a simple decision thing that is gonna keep you accountable. And like we have it built out in a sheet and you can track it, but it's the tracking part that forms the habit. See, that's what most people don't understand of why I'm doing it. They're like, well, if you've been doing it so long, like, of course, I've got this shit memorized. I could do it in my head, no problem. Right? I can do it over and over again. I've taught hundreds of contractors how to do it. That's not the point. All right. The point of it is that it's formed a habit, and that habit's not going anywhere because that's how I build my day. That's how I build my week. That's how I teach
Yeah.
other people to value my time. So when I can trust somebody else to schedule my appointments, to create my meetings, to say yes and no to things that I'm going to do or not going to do with a simple matrix. Well, now I've mastered delegation, haven't I? Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, here's a question, like to anybody who's listening.
Mhm.
Is there any first steps that we can offer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first steps is the easiest steps. Everyone that was in our Facebook group or anything is audit your time. Really take a look. No, like honestly, because every time I hear the excuse of I don't have time, I'm like, oh yeah, open your calendar. Show me your calendar. Show me your habits, and I'll tell you why you're not making money.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if I open your calendar and there's no calendar there, well, that's a waste of time. All right. There's no possible way. And there's nobody that I've met yet that has the ability to remember everything. All right. And you know, the first action of being under control yourself personally, all right, and getting control of your tasks and your time, all right, is documenting it. Easy. It's the simplest
Right.
process that I can give you, period. Full stop, right? You want to have a reoccurring task, you know what you do? You open up your Google Calendar, you slap in a reoccurring task, you just create it, right? If you can use Facebook, you can do this, all right, of exercise every morning for 15 minutes. It's going to send you a reminder every day to do it. And either you did it or you didn't do it, right? It's a
Yeah.
yes or a
That's
no,
pretty clean. Yeah. That's
right?
that's clean.
Pretty easy,
Absolutely.
right? We're not
I'd
talking
love
about
to hear
complex
from.
things.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I'd like to hear from any of you out there. Maybe make a comment in the comment section. What did you do today
Mm,
that you regret?
right.
Because my back is telling me going up and down.
If we
30
ever
flights of
audited,
stairs was
and
not a good
again,
idea.
the way that I've had to explain it to customers before, maybe this will be helpful. All right. If I was a forensic accountant and I came in to look at your life instead of your business, would you feel stressed?
I think most of us can answer yes.
Okay. So
Yeah,
if that's the case, then you're not accountable for your time. If you're not accountable for your time, all right, then you get what you get,
that's a great metric. Let's
right?
leave it at that, brother.
Yep.
That's a great way to look at it. All right, so we do this again next week.
We will so.
All right.
All
Have
right.
a good day, buddy.
Bye.
Take care.